All right, hello, welcome to the video. Today we're talking about, what? You thought I was gonna be in the box. All right, whatever, dude. Today we're talking about the lost modes of Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is having a bit of a revival right now. Konami shuffled out a bare minimum port of the first 3 games to modern consoles in 2023, and the Delta remake is coming out sometime. But there are some game modes from the early games that haven't seen the light of day for a couple decades. Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 have been updated and ported half a dozen times, but there are certain game modes that still only exist on specific versions of their PS2 releases. One example of this is the multiplayer mode in Snake Eater, though we won't be talking about that today. It is technically possible to play it nowadays, but there are private servers involved and it's just not going to have the player population that it did 20 years ago. We'll be focusing on the single player content today, starting with Metal Gear Solid 2. For years, I've heard tales and legends of a secondary mode in this game in which Snake and Raiden grab some boards and absolutely shred the big shell. Now, I hadn't heard many details about this mode or even seen much from it, so really all I knew was that they ride skateboards. But the concept was so out of left field I was nonetheless intrigued. So I decided to finally give it a try. I booted up Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance and let the wheels hit the pavement. Or the metal, I guess. So contrary to what I thought, this is not something that was specifically developed for MGS2. Instead, it's a demo for a game called Evolution Skateboarding, also published by Konami. So all the Metal Gear Solid aspects are kind of just window dressing to a degree. There aren't really any new voice lines, as all the announcements are made with the announcer from Evolution Skateboarding. There aren't any special animations for Snake or Raiden, and there's only one stage with slight differences between the two characters' runs. It very much feels like a skateboarding game using Metal Gear Solid assets for a fun little crossover. And as a skateboarding game, it seems fine. Honestly, I've never been huge into skateboarding games. I played Tony Hawk's Underground 2 back in the day, but I haven't exactly kept up with it. I did find it to be a bit clunky, but there's a decent assortment of tricks to pull off and some fun sequences you can set off. That said, I don't feel like there was really anything to get excited about. Nothing crazy with the level design or interesting uses of Metal Gear materials. The closest thing was probably blowing up one of the big shell struts, but ultimately it was a little deflated because it went on for a weirdly long time. Aside from a couple of these sequences and going around pulling off tricks, there are also collectibles to grab and a couple drones to crash. There's really not that much to this mode because it is a demo. Moving on to Snake Eater, we have 2 more game modes, one of which is Snake vs. Monkey. If you've ever played the Ape Escape series, this should be very familiar to you as, well, it's a collaboration between the 2 franchises. I'm not exactly sure how or why this came to be made. Maybe just a lucrative business move on Konami's part to offset Kojima's crazy budgets. Anyhow, this mode does feature some new voice lines from Snake and even from Paul Eiding's Colonel, who for narrative reasons is otherwise not present in Snake Eater, for the most part.
Snake, what have you done? You've changed the future. You've created a time paradox.
Beyond that, you're dropped into various zones with a bunch of monkeys roaming around and you're tasked with rounding them up. They don't give you a net, unfortunately. I think that would have been a fun mechanic, but I guess they didn't have the time for new animations. Instead, you're given a very limited tool set, the main components of which are the Easy Gun, rebranded as the Monkey Shaker, and stun grenades. So once the timer starts, you run around the stage and shoot or throw grenades at the monkeys to temporarily incapacitate them. Then you just make contact and they're teleported away. The dialogue at the beginning suggests that Snake is supposed to say a password to teleport them away, but it doesn't seem like he actually says it, unless the password is gotcha.
Gotcha! 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 Gotcha!
Anyway, the act of capturing the monkeys isn't all that interesting. The most charming part of this mode is just seeing what all these simians are getting up to. Some are hiding in trees, some are sipping margaritas, some are having a straight up dance party, and some are pondering life's great mysteries. It is fun to see all these scenarios and placements that they thought up for these apes, but I'm honestly not that heartbroken that I haven't gotten the chance to play this mode until now. However, there are some goodies you can unlock in the main game. For completing every stage, you unlock the monkey mask, and it gives you a mask that makes you look like a monkey. It stays on in cutscenes, for what it's worth.
I'll bet if I kissed you, you'd taste like a wild beast.
But if you manage to get the high score on all the stages, you unlock this banana costume, which makes all food taste good.
It's rotten.
It doesn't change the voice line, but it does increase the stamina gain, so I guess it doesn't taste good? It also doesn't prevent food poisoning. Finally, we have a mode that's actually integrated into the campaign, with its own short cutscene that's not present in later ports of the game. If you save your game when Snake's in this jail cell, quit and reload, you'll find yourself playing an entirely different game. Canonically, this is a nightmare, and in reality, it's another demo, this time for a cancelled game called Guy Savage. You control a man beset by various zombie-esque creatures, and your only options are to fight or become their next meal. It's got some character action flavor, and the protagonist weirdly makes me think of Kingdom Hearts. Once again, there's not a whole lot to this mode. It takes place in one square arena with some destructible objects, and all the enemies basically serve as cannon fodder that just kind of mindlessly approach and take swipes at you. Your character has a little bit of diversity to his moveset. You've got a basic combo, a crowd control spin attack, and a jump slam attack. There's also a dash move that can be followed up with a kick, and if you get on a good streak, you'll undergo a partial transformation and then eventually a full transformation into some kind of werewolf creature. And honestly, things get less interesting in this form. The camera locks onto enemies automatically and every hit is an instant kill. It's all a little stiff, and it would feel better if the enemies did something to incentivize you to use one move over another. But as it is, it's just a way to mindlessly kill a couple minutes. And I do mean a couple minutes, because even if you're doing well, the nightmare ends after 2 minutes. And it's probably for the best. As a 2-minute sequence, this demo manages to not overstay its welcome. If it were to go for even 5 minutes, it would probably get kind of old. With some polish and refinement, this could have potentially been an interesting game in its own right, but I suppose we'll never know. But there you go. Those are all the extra game modes in the Metal Gear Solid games that have been left to gather dust on the PS2. At least all the ones I know of. And now's the time for my performance review. Maybe you enjoyed the video. You could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, maybe even leave a comment talking about your experience with these modes. You could even check out my Patreon page. Alternately, if you didn't enjoy the video, you could do all the things I listed above ironically. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.